Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a sort of extra process video for you today. I was actually working through kind of combining days 6 through 8 from Let Heaven and Nature Sing from Bythewell4God. I decided I wanted to create a page in my Bible for this verse in Isaiah 9. And so what you see me doing here is I have taken some mint tape and I have just put it on some scratch paper, and I'm using it's like a 2.5 or 2.25 inch hole punch to sort of make this so that I have this kind of imperfect, or this circle that I can use. In the end, this actually became a little bit annoying here because I was trying to keep it all together as one circle and I could not get the backing paper, the white paper off of the mint tape. So I ended up pulling it off in pieces anyway. But this was just the way that seemed to make sense in my brain because I'm trying to create a little mask for what I want to do. So you can see me just struggling with the mint tape. This is just how this goes sometimes. But anyway, while I'm doing that, I'm going to just go ahead and adhere these back down into a circle-ish. And in the end, this didn't really, I was being a little bit too particular for kind of no reason. But anyway, so I have this little area kind of masked off. I'm going to put a mat behind what I'm going to do because I'm going to be adding some watercolor, and it's just helpful to kind of have a background that you can work on. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I have my watercolor dot card from By the Well. This comes in the devotional, and I have a little acrylic block you can see over to the left so that I can work on that as a palette. I've added some water. I have a water brush here that I'm using. You can I'm pulling the color from the left side, or from the card onto that acrylic block just to make my watercolor go further. Otherwise, you're kind of just grinding it down into that watercolor paper. So I'm starting with a darker color here, going around the outer side. This is like a bluish gray color. And I'm applying it pretty heavily around the outside. So I have already sprayed my paper down. The paper in this ESV Interleaved Bible is really great. It takes watercolor really well, in my opinion, as opposed to like the Illustrated Bible, which does not like watercolor at all. I did get some down into the gutter. I probably should have taped that off, but I just put a little paper towel down there and it soaked it right up, so I wasn't too worried about it. And then I'm adding some more down here around the bottom. The verse that I am journaling is talking about those that were in darkness, the great light has come, and it goes on to talk about his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. It's a prophecy about Jesus, and it talks about him in being in the light. And days 6 through 8 talk about that, and they talk about his name shall be called Emmanuel and all those things. So I'm just kind of combining all of those, but I really wanted to journal this verse in Isaiah in my Bible. So obviously I'm working through the devotional in another journal, but I did want to add this. So you can see me, I'm just going through, not doing anything extra here, just really adding a lot of color, trying to just get a nice kind of, I'm really shooting for like a stormy sky, dark kind of sky here. Got a little more ink down there than I wanted again. And I'm going to hit this with my heat tool to dry it. I'm going to dry the front and the back. And one trick as you're doing this with watercolor, especially in your Bible, if you just very gently kind of pull on it, it keeps it from curling too bad. And, kind of pull it away from the spine, and it kind of stretches it out, keeps it from curling. It helps straighten it out. Another thing that I will often do is I will heat up the page and then I'll close my Bible. And I find that really helps it to lie flat. It's almost like ironing it, which you can do too. Some people do. I don't bother with all that. I don't mind the crinkly pages, but that's just me. Anyway, you can see now I'm going back around that circle. I didn't want like an imperfect circle. I wanted kind of the illusion of light shining through something. And so I also don't want to have a harsh edge of that watercolor. And the way that you can kind of work with that so that you don't is you always want to have a wet edge. You don't want to have a really harsh line, which is what I'm dealing with over here on the right. So I'm trying to kind of blend that out. But if you just keep a wet edge, it will fade into whatever, that you're working for. So it just kind of depends. Like if you want really distinct lines, then you kind of do, wet into dry. If you want like blurrier lines, then wet into wet is the way to go. And so just making sure that your paper is wet whenever you're adding new color in. So even when I go back in and add more color in, a lot of times I will spray the paper again just to make sure that I have a good foundation, and then I will add my other color back in. And so I did work this just a little, a few times to try to get the depth of color that I wanted, and to get rid of some of those blooms and those kinds of things I didn't want in there. And then any harsh lines, I wanted to make sure I didn't have those either. And then I'm just taking that same color and I am highlighting the verses from 2 to 7 in chapter 9 of Isaiah. This is just all talking about this prophecy of Jesus. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was highlighted. I'm going to hit this again with my heat tool, and you can see when I flip this over that there is no bleed through, at least at this moment. You can see it's a little bit wet right now. I went back through and added another layer of color, and this one I really wanted to kind of just sit and pool and dry by itself for a little while. It just helps add it a little bit more dimension and that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry I'm off camera down here at the bottom. I'm just cutting off some of that white edge around the die cuts. I know that they decreased the margin of that white around there, but I wanted to even decrease that just a little bit more. So I went ahead and just fussy cut all of those images. And now I'm going to go around with some archival ink in ground espresso just to distress the edges and really make sure I get all of that white. So I have pulled out a couple of distress oxide colors. One is pine needles and the other is iced spruce. I have an idea here that I want to layer some of these trees kind of back behind there. So I'm pulling the stencil from Bythewell, and just kind of add these trees in a couple different places. So I am starting with pine needles, and it's a very bright color, and I really wanted to add in some of that iced spruce. So you'll see me, it looks like I'm going back and forth between these two colors, but off to the side I have a paper towel that I'm rubbing off the color so that I'm not, contaminating either of my ink pads here. So if you're concerned about that, I am doing that off. You just can't see the paper towel, but I wanted to add the ice spruce just to add a little bit of extra depth of color and to give it some dimension. And also I wanted to really add in that kind of gray, dark kind of color from that I'm kind of trying to mimic with the sky. I didn't want it to be like this super bright, intense green all of a sudden. I probably should have used a darker green even for the color that I did, but in the end, I think it ends up okay. So then I'm just moving the stencil along the page and going to add some more trees all the way across to kind of be the background for my little village here that I'm going to put down. So again, just cleaning off my ink blender in between each of these colors. Mostly I do think I forget a couple times, but it's gonna be okay. You can kind of see where we're at now. So I have my little village that's going to go down here at the bottom, and I'm a little bit low on the edge here because I forget how big this Bible is, so I apologize that I'm kind of off screen here, but I am taking one of the pattern papers. It's like that dark deep blue kind of sky, and I'm just going to use that for a ground to kind of be the street for my little village here. So I just tore off a piece of that, and trying to decide which order I want my little village to be, my little houses. And then I'm going to go in, this is antique linen actually, and I'm going to kind of now add some light to my little circle up there. I'm just going around the outside of this area, keeping, trying to blend it into the background without, I don't want it to obviously blend into a green color, so I'm trying to be careful. But and then I decided to come in with even a brighter color. So I had antique linen, and then I used scattered straw right kind of in the middle and around the edge, just to give it some dimension, and so that it's not just one like static color. I didn't want to spray any water because that would just have created a problem. So I'm just trying to give it some dimension. But in the end, I am going to use this the stamp from it's called Sweet Hymns of Hope, I think, or something. Anyway, or Sweet Hymns of Joy. I'm sorry, I cannot remember, and it's sitting right there. Anyway, one of the stamps from the devotional this month, and I am doing the one that says think it says Rejoice, Emmanuel. And so I went back and forth between which stamp I kind of wanted to use, but I decided to use the song lyrics for this one. So I'm just now going to glue down this piece across the bottom here for my little area of ground. And then I will glue my little village pieces, my little town on top of that. And then I'm just trying to decide if I want them like side by side or kind of layered. And in the end, I decided to kind of layer them, kind of stagger them a little bit. So this one that's here on the right, I'm going to end up cutting down just so I have more space. 3 of them would not fit side by side. So I trimmed this one down, and then I'm going to put that little one in the middle kind of back behind those other 2. So that way it gives it a little bit more of dimension, and then I'm not going to lose so much. Otherwise I would have had to cut almost half of those houses, the shops off, and I didn't really want to do that. So I'm going to start with gluing down the one right here in the center, and then move to this one on the right that I've already cut, just trying to line that up with the edge of the ground piece that I have already glued down. And then and also kind of putting it just a little bit in front, just so that there's a little bit of dimension again. And then I will do the same with the one on the left. I will end up having to cut a little bit of that one off, not too much, but I just really liked the idea of having this street with all these cute little buildings on there, kind of backed by these trees, and then this, deep sky that looks like, a dark kind of moody sky anyway is what I was that's what I was going for anyway. You can see the ink that I used to stamp that, which was VersaFine Onyx Black, did bleed through this page. I'm not at all worried about it. If I decide to journal on the back side of this, I can always cover that up. I'm honestly really close to being to the point where this Bible is too full to be working in anymore. And so I don't know how many more entries I will be putting. I'm considering just buying a new one for next year. Because it's pretty chunky, and so it's getting hard to work in. So I may retire this one after this month anyway, but you can always add a piece of paper, do all kinds of things to cover it up. So I'm not worried about it, but it did bleed through, just so VersaFine will do that. I am now going through with a Unisigno pen in white, and I'm just adding basically what's meant to be highlights to these trees. So I have my light over there on the left, so I'm adding highlights kind of on that side, and then I'll add a little bit down kind of in the windows, and just some little areas down here to try to bring some brightness down into that, as if the light is starting to kind of shine through, which was kind of my idea in there. It could also, I guess, kind of look like snow or whatever, but it was really meant to just kind of highlight all of that. So anyway, this is how my page ended up. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.